Welcome to the very first episode of Calm, Clear Conversations. A chance to get together, explore, deepen connections, have fun, and for my first guest, I can't think of anyone better because she is an expert at all of these things. And so, yeah, I'll be taking copious notes while we do this. I'm Christopher Johnson. My guest today is Brenda Meller. I know. The Brenda Meller.
Hey,
Welcome, Brenda.
Hey, Christopher. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for having me on with you.
It is my pleasure. If you're watching this, well, since you're watching this live, please comment with where you are watching from. If you have a question, pop it in the chat. And if you don't have a question, sit back, buckle in, and get ready to learn a lot of stuff. So, Brenda, we've known each other a couple minutes.
We have. It's probably been close to 10 years, right? Between Toastmastering and Jan's Accountability Lab and, everything, right?
Indeed. All right, wait. You mentioned Accountability Lab.
Right. Have you been on in the mornings lately? Because I have not, I'll admit.
You know what? I skipped today. Now, Accountability Lab is at 6:30 in the morning, and everyone else gets on, and they are, stunning, and I just roll out of bed and show up.
Now, that's not true. We're not, well, we're naturally beautiful when we wake up in the morning. We will give you that, but our hair and makeup is not done. We're usually looking like we all rolled out of bed, but you have, just that gift of you can roll out of bed and you look just as lovely as when you have prepped for being on camera for 3 hours.
Hair and makeup. Wow.
Yeah.
And I see we have Danielle Harris from Southfield. Welcome, Danielle. Good morning.
There she is.
And Jasmine from Northville. Hey, and Brad. We know Brad from the VIP Meller Marketing Sessions on Friday.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Brad, how you doing?
So tell us about the VIP sessions that you conduct. I mean, that is a great service to the community.
Yeah,
there's a community of job seekers, and you're providing a valuable service.
And you're actually a part of that event. So every Friday from 10 to 11 Eastern, I offer a free Zoom office hours for individuals who are in career transition. I like to say that includes people who are unemployed, underemployed, or maybe working but looking for their next career opportunity. And I started the group last year once the pandemic was really affecting a lot of people, good people who were being laid off, let go, downsized, reallocated, so to speak. And many people had never had to look for a job before. So they were really thrown into something that was unknown. So I knew, everybody's business had taken a hit, and I wanted to both help and stay visible during the what was happening in the market. So I decided to offer a series of free webinars for people that were looking at finding a new job. It was LinkedIn for job search. And then supplement to that, I did a Friday office hours where people could come in, ask LinkedIn strategy questions, clarify things that we had talked about in the webinars. And then over time, it's now evolved. So people are starting to share their success stories at the beginning of the call. And then we have Christopher, you're offering a Zoom tip on the beginning of every phone call as well. So it's been a great experience.
It is. You know what? It's one of my favorite Zoom calls for the week.
Absolutely.
Because it's an engaging environment. And yeah, the weekly Zoom tips help keep me on my toes. Because I have to make sure it's like, all right, what feature am I going to demonstrate? And all right, my company, Calm Clear Communications, we produce virtual events on Zoom. That got started by I had a client before I had the Zoom skills. a client said, hey, can you do this? My answer was, of course, yes. So then I had to figure out how to do that. And the way I did that, in addition to participating on Zoom calls, I took a course from Robbie Samuels, who
Mm-hmm.
also has a weekly Zoom happy hour. And through Robbie, it's like, oh, all right, that gave me a firm foundation to start my own business. And then I was able to, like, I have a background in this that dovetails nicely with everything else. And so it's just moving from a live platform to a virtual platform.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
one of the other places that we know each other from is
Mm-hmm.
TEDx Detroit.
That's right. That was in the middle. So it was Toastmasters, TEDx Detroit, and then a couple of recent affiliations as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Now in TEDx Detroit, let's see, your company was the title sponsor. Well, the company you were at the time was
Correct.
one of, so yes,
Yes. And I
you all.
actually still have, let me show you this. Now that you mention it, Charlie Wahlberg from your team came and delivered this little plaque to me. And I don't think the company will miss it, but I took it with me when I left my job. I also have a TEDx hoodie that we got as a part of that sponsorship. So yeah, that was a great experience. And it was, where was that at? The Fox Theater?
It has been at the Fox Theater.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've done the Fox Masonic Temple.
Mm-hmm.
We've done venues in and around Detroit. And it's just a wonderful all-day festival of learning,
Mm-hmm.
inspiration, motivation. So we are in the planning process for this year. So stay tuned, and I hope to see you at TEDx Detroit this year.
I wonder too how people are feeling about the larger events this year, and events like TED and TEDx events have so much positive pull to them. They're an event that you want to go to, and I remember people being there saying, I can't believe I'm here. And every year it was like the same thing. You'd have people, I can't believe I'm here. And it's just an interesting year because things are starting to come back. Whether you're fully vaccinated or not probably has a play in how comfortable you are, and then how long it's been since you've been vaccinated probably also contributes to that. So it'll be interesting to see how all these events work with not just the requirements that are being asked of our local communities, but also at an individual level. How do we make people comfortable coming back and reuniting? Whether you're an introvert or extrovert, it's being around people when you haven't been around people for 16 months is a little bit challenging, right?
It can be. It can
Mhm.
be. And so I'm noticing a trend with the LinkedIn Lives that I've
Mhm.
been watching and on. There are a lot of introverts.
Yeah.
You and I are introverts.
Yep. Mhm.
So when introverts get together to a LinkedIn Live, it's not crickets. We have stuff to talk about.
Absolutely.
So
It's
your
almost
particular,
like the energy we kind of build off of each other too, right? I get energy from you, you get energy from me, and it helps us. But then afterwards, you and I will probably both shut off our cameras, close our computer screen, have some quiet time for a little bit to kind of process and digest, right?
absolutely.
Mhm.
Now, a question for you. One of the things that you are known for
Mhm.
is a love of pie.
Yes. Mhm.
Did you get pie over the weekend?
I did not. I talked about strawberry rhubarb because it's been such a long
Yes.
time and it's strawberry season right now. And I didn't actually go to any grocery stores or anything, so I didn't have any access to pies over the weekend. And I was also feeling um I haven't worked out in a really long time. So I was feeling like if I indulge one more slice of pie, that's going to tip me over the edge. So I actually joined a gym instead this weekend and got on an elliptical yesterday for the first time in 16 months instead. But I remember when I used to work out more often, 2, 3, 4 times a week, I could enjoy things like pie without having any of the guilt. So that's my goal, is to continue and get back into this fitness routine so that I can get out to maybe Grand Traverse Pie, maybe meet somebody for lunch, have a slice of pie with my lunch. On Tuesdays, by the way, did you know you get a free slice of pie with any entree purchase there? Fun fact.
Okay. That's all right. So this is going to change the plans for Tuesday, maybe a bit. Um, one of the things we do have going on tomorrow, on Tuesday, is
Yeah.
a Zoom webinar.
Mm-hmm.
So during this Zoom webinar, Zoom Power 30, what are we going to cover?
I'm going to drop the link in the chat right now for people who might be interested in joining us too. So this is a 30-minute webinar, and we're going to talk about, I think we're calling it 12 tips for better business engagement. So you and I planned this event, Christopher, when, it was a couple months ago, I think we did the first one. And we had the event, and then afterwards we were talking about, is this still relevant now, given the fact that businesses are starting to kind of bring people back in, conferences and events are starting to look at in person, but they're still hybrid. And we've also gotten a taste of what the Zoom experience can provide us. And there's many positive aspects of that. So we said, yeah, this is still a relevant topic. It's not like Zoom is going to stop. There's not going to be a hard stop on August 31st, right? It's going to continue. There's 31 days in August, right? I have to think about my months. Or is it 30? Haven't finished my coffee yet.
Oh, I understand, but
We have to do
I
the
do
poem,
encourage,
right?
it's a song, and I encourage other people to sing.
30 days has September, April, May, and November. All the rest have 31. So that would be August, right? Did I get it? So anyways, Zoom is not going to stop, Christopher. We just had a learning experience. Know your calendar dates. Zoom is not going to stop. There's not going to be a hard stop on it. I think it will continue. And the tips that we brought together, I'm pulling together marketing tips for people who are using Zoom for business development, whether it's for proposals, presentations, virtual events, and you're coming with some technical tips and know-how for folks. So I think it's going to be a really fun 30-minute session tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it.
It is, it's a lot of fun because, engaged presenters, and we build off of the energy of each other. And when we have an engaged audience as well, it's just a lot of fun. Absolutely. And when things are fun, that makes learning easier.
I agree. Adult learners, we got to have fun when we're learning.
Absolutely. You don't want it to be miserable. Now, I just blanked on the next question I had.
So do you write down your questions, or do you use like a calendar invite for them, or are you just kind of like just going through your head and trying to pick through your questions? How do you do your questions?
All of the above.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll have not a sticky note, but the Notes app, and I will write questions in there.
Okay.
Or sometimes just bullet points, outlines. Make sure you cover A, B, C, and D.
Right. There you go. Everybody says.
How about you?
I've got a variety. I mean, if I pull my office drawer out, I've got a collection of Post-it notes. Right now, my desk is pretty clear. Sometimes I'll stick them on. I've moved them over to a whiteboard to clear that off. And then I've also got the, handy dandy notebook where last week I sat down on Monday and did my to-do list there. And then I'm also using Trello, which is like a project management tool. There's an app for it. I'll put some of my work tasks in there. So I'm a bit kind of, it's organized chaos. The process works for me, but it just depends on my mood in the day. Usually when I'm doing lives, things like these, my webcam, and I'm pointing at my webcam right now, has a little, like a flat surface right below the camera, which is perfect for a Post-it note, but it won't stay there forever. So I can put it on like just before the show. It'll hang there for the duration. It'll fall off in another day or two. But that's kind of perfect because when I'm looking down at the Post-it note, I can remember what are the questions I wanted to cover with this guest. So there's different techniques to try, but it just depends on what works best for you, I think.
Hmm. We have a really good question from Brad about presenting on this platform where it is one way. So it's broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the secret from my standpoint for
Mm-hmm.
all broadcast media. You're talking to one person.
Yeah.
If you can identify who you're talking to, whether it is radio or TV or this platform here. Now, you and I are talking to each other and allowing other people to chime in, to be a
Mm-hmm.
part of the conversation. Now, how do you like being on broadcast versus um, interactive events?
Yeah, it's a great question. I used to do a lot more presentations live in person pre-pandemic. And then when you're doing a presentation virtually, in this aspect, Christopher, you and I can see each other, so we can see each other's facial expressions. But the hard part is to engage with your audience, you have to look at the camera. So I did this before. I'm tapping. That's where my camera is up here.
Mhm.
It's at eye level. My laptop is below me. So when I'm looking at you, I kind of, have to look down. So I enjoy the virtual platform because it is allowing us a way to connect with people from across the world that we wouldn't have access to on such a regular basis otherwise. But I do have to admit, you have to practice this technique and you have to get comfortable looking at an electronic circle. It's not an eyeball. We as humans want to look at eyeballs. So it's you have to get comfortable with that part. And the other part I found is that, to Brad's point, we really don't have audience interaction. We can't hear them. We can't see them. Even in a Zoom, we can see people nodding or laughing or, sometimes unmuting. In this platform, what I try to do with, at least with my LinkedIn Lives, is I have kind of three audiences. I have the person who's my co-host, the person who I'm hosting in the interview. I have the live viewing audience, the people who are watching it live, but I put a little asterisk on that because it's a 30-second delay. So if we
Right.
say, thank you, Brad, for your comment, let us know if you have any other questions, it's going to take Brad 30 seconds to reply to that, and then another couple seconds for his message to pop up. So we have to kind of accommodate that live delay to
Hmm.
make sure that we're responding to people. And then the third
Sure.
audience, which is probably the biggest audience, is the people who are watching it in playback. So what I'll usually do is tell people, if you're watching this in playback, still leave a comment and just put hashtag playback or something, so we know that when you're watching it later on, and we'll respond back to you. Typically, if it's 100 views that occurs within the live broadcast, by the end of the business day, it might go up to 300, 500, 600, 800 views on LinkedIn. And then I also might pull in some additional viewership on YouTube or Facebook or other platforms as well. So it's there's just a lot of things going through your head when you're a virtual presenter, as opposed to if you're in person in a room. You can read the audience, you can see their facial expressions, you can see if people are stepping up and walking out of the room because you're no longer interesting, or you're going long on time. In the virtual, you have to rely on other cues to make sure that your message is resonating and reaching your audience.
True. And one of the things I learned this from Robbie,
Mhm.
this being American Sign Language for applause.
Oh, okay.
So having an audience do that when you're on a Zoom meeting where you can have everyone turn their cameras on and
Yeah.
engage, that is really helpful.
Mhm.
Zoom webinar, where it is broadcasting out, well, you don't get that level of engagement,
Mhm.
but you still have the Q&A. Now,
Right.
one of the people who just uh, commented, you had Pam on your program last week. You two did a joint, actually, it was Pam's
It was on her
program, right?
program.
It was
Yeah.
her program, co-opetition.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. Pam and I are doing a session on Thursday of this week.
Oh, awesome. Great to hear.
She's
On
going to
your
be
show
a
or on her
guest.
show?
Yes. Yes, and.
So which is it?
So this week, part one will be on mine, and part
Mhm.
two will be on hers next week.
Awesome. Well, that's really
Cross
great to hear.
pollination.
There you go. Now, how did you and Pam meet? Was it through my introduction, or did you know each other outside of that?
This was the homework I was not prepared for on a Monday morning.
Don't feel bad, because I, like, Pam and I, when we met, it's kind of like Pam and I are old friends, and I'm like, how did we meet? And she's like, she remembers. It was through, I think it was through Inforum, like pre-COVID. I think I was speaking at an event or something. We met and we chatted, but then we've really gotten to know each other more virtually. And we met in person when I was delivering my books back in, I think it was January. I dropped it off. It was the first time, I mean, I guess the second time we met in person. But I think that's the thing with people like you and I, I feel like we've known each other for years. And if somebody said, when was the first time you met? I think it was probably Toastmasters. I don't remember, though. I feel like we've crossed paths in so many different places that I'm like, oh, good, Christopher's here. I'm in the right place. That's how I feel.
And see, Pam provided the answer. We all know each other through you.
Through the interwebs, right, Pam?
Absolutely. Now, yeah, and with you, it was a Toastmasters contest where you were giving a speech.
Was I competing? Yeah. Okay.
You were competing.
Yeah. That's funny. I have my someplace in here. Oh, I have it. I always step out of camera and do this, Christopher. A Toastmasters medal. This is I think this is one of my first winning. This was probably pre Christopher. Can I tell the short story about this for people?
Of course.
So you'll see here, I'm going to hold it up again. It says first place, and this is, what is the year? 2008. It's kind of blurry on here. 2008 International Speech Contest. So the way that it works in Toastmasters is, at least it used to, there was 2 speech competitions a year. You would compete at the chapter level, and then all of the chapters would come together for an area competition, and this was the area competition. So there was probably 5 or 6 chapters, I think, something like that were competing. So the best speaker from each chapter went on to the competition. Now there's some rules. One of the rules is there's a speech limit. Is it 5 to 7 minutes for the speech? I can't remember. Does that sound right?
Generally, it is 5 to 7 minutes. Yes.
Okay. So I was a newbie. I think I had just joined Toastmasters that year. Was really just starting to do public speaking, was really not super comfortable. I think I fumbled. I know I spoke too fast. It was not perfect by any means. I was competing against these people who were polished speakers at other clubs. And I think there was only like 4 of us, maybe, because I remember there was me and another person. I don't remember what their speech was about. The other 2 that were very polished speakers, they both went over on time. So what happens if you go over on time? You get disqualified. So I came home that night with this little trophy, showed it to my husband, and he's like, wow, sweetie, congratulations. That's awesome. I said, no, you don't understand. Everyone else was disqualified because of time. And he said, but you still won. They should know better. If they're experienced, they know the time requirements. So you won fair and square. And I have this, on my bookshelf, not as much as like, oh my God, it wasn't, for me, it wasn't a monumental speech by any means. I'm a little embarrassed by the quality of the speech, but it was a learning experience for me. And it reminded me about the importance of, like, if I hadn't competed, I wouldn't have won this. And understanding that rules are a part of competition. Doesn't matter if it's the best speech in the world. If you went over on time, you're disqualified. So it's just a visual reminder for me of that.
And it's a great example of you gain comfort through that experience. You expanded what your comfort zone was.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you continue to do that. And as you expand your comfort zone, you inspire others.
There you
Sometimes it might be your kids. We never know when they're paying attention.
Right.
So
that's right.
We can just keep inspiring and hoping, and one day they may say, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we hope that we have rubbed off on them enough so that when they're in a situation to make choices, they make a good choice, right?
Exactly. So As we wind down, what is the media that you're consuming that inspires you, captivates you, draws you in? Is it a show on, one of the streaming channels? Is it a book?
Mhm.
Is it a podcast? What's the last thing that you binged?
Oh gosh, the last thing that I've binged. That inspires me? I don't know. I don't know that it's one certain thing. It's probably a combination. I'm reading a book right now by my friend Kathy McCafferty Smith. I'm interviewing her in a LinkedIn Live coming up, and she also works with people who are in career transition. So she's going to kind of come on my Friday call. So I'm reading the book to help me to prepare for both, those conversations, and also to gain additional insights. My core business isn't really working with the unemployed. It's more working with people kind of who are director level and above. But I do have a desire to continue to work with people who are in career transition. So that's an audience that I will continue to speak with. But whenever career conversations come up or resume questions, I like to refer people out to different paths. So Kathy's one of those paths. Aside from that, Michelle Raymond, who's a fellow LinkedIn coach who works with company pages, she's in Australia. She had sent me a podcast link a few weeks back, and I listened to the podcast over the weekend. And, I don't listen to podcasts all the time, but I try to listen to them periodically. That
Okay.
helps me. I'm always going in, trying to gain new insights, from that experience. And even if I don't learn anything new about the interview, I learn more about the people, the interviewee and the
Yeah.
interviewer. And in this specific situation, I learned a lot about Michelle and her ability to navigate a podcasting interview. And I was very proud of her, and I sent her some nice notes, and I gave her a LinkedIn recommendation based on listening to her in that interview. So for me, being inspired, it's a variety of sources. I'm kind of open to what the universe sends to me, whether it's Kathy in her book, Michelle in her interview, Christopher in being a guest on his, first LinkedIn Live. So I'm kind of just open, and I kind of meander a bit to gain inspiration.
Okay.
Mhm.
Would you consider yourself a lifelong learner?
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt.
It's good to, I think that's a wonderful trait to have,
Mhm.
especially these days, because the landscape for everything changes continually.
Mhm.
And you just have to be curious enough to keep up and stay relevant within what your sphere of influence is.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of keeping open-minded, I think, as well. And every experience, every conversation, everything you read, see, I think there's something you can learn from it. So what was the learning experience? Was it character building? Was additional techniques or strategies? Was it what not to do, or what type of person I don't want to be? What type of leader I don't want to be? Or is it just gaining new knowledge and exposing yourself to different subject matter areas that aren't part of your core business? But absolutely, being a lifelong learner, I think, is so important.
It is. And all right, I have two teenagers, and I got an exasperated side. What do you mean? It's never over? Like, no, it's never over.
Hmm.
So my oldest, when she graduated high school last year, now she's in college,
Hmm.
it was, it's never over? No, it never, there's always something new to learn. Ah,
It's interesting though, because I think you go through a process in education, and I remember it too. You're excited to learn, you're enthusiastic, and then it feels at some point that education is being forced on you. Um, and there's some really great teachers out there that are helping to continue to bring the students in, to pull them back in.
mhm.
But I think at a certain point there becomes the state requirements for testing and the state requirements for graduation, and those are driving learning, right? As opposed to
Yeah,
curiosity. And there's still discussions now about, my son will ask me, when am I ever going to use this? So, is there an opportunity for more practical things to be incorporated into the curriculum? But as you know, Christopher, you go through public school, then when you go into college and you're able to choose the classes, hopefully you get to a point. For me, it was probably into my second or third year of college where you're realizing it's not being forced on you. You're choosing to learn. So you're choosing classes that inspire you, that motivate you. For me, it was marketing. When I took my first marketing class, it was like the light went on for me. And then you start to become a sponge and just absorb information. And hopefully that directs you towards your career path where you're going to feel like you're lighting up all the time and you're being inspired all the time, not that it's being forced on you, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And, and that's what follows through the rest of your life is that curiosity. So when you follow your curiosity and the learning is by choice, you're a lifelong learner.
Right.
Because there's always something to be curious about. Well, this has been an absolutely fabulous first episode of LinkedIn Live. Thank you very much, Brenda.
It was my pleasure, Christopher, joining you. And thank you, everybody, for watching and for participating in the conversation today.
And so be sure to leave a comment and let us know your thoughts. So tomorrow on the 27th, the Zoom webinar registration information is available at Meller Marketing Zoom Power 30.
Correct. And I did drop it into the LinkedIn Live. Let me see if I can grab it real quick, Christopher. And if you wanted to drop it, put it on screen. I'll add it as a comment. Let's see if I can do this. Private chat. I'll put it into private chat. And I think you would have the ability, if you wanted, to copy and then put it in a banner if you wanted to share it on screen, if that makes sense. Oh, look at that. It's done. Automatically, it's there. Look at that.
Automatically.
Collaboration, everyone. There you go.
Exactly. Well, thanks all, and we'll look for you online.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.